I'd like to call this meeting of Zion City Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Here.
Commissioner Deteen? Commissioner McDowell?
Here.
Commissioner McKinney?
Here.
Mayor Hill?
Here. Pastor Martin.
Thank you. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for freedom. Thank you for granting to our founding fathers of this country an understanding of the importance and necessity of freedom. Thank you that we can celebrate freedom because we have at least some measure of that freedom today. For those who are serving here in Zion as officers and leaders, thank you for the freedom that the residents have exercised in terms of allowing us to vote for them. Thank you for the citizens who comment at these council meetings, who do so because of the freedoms we possess. Lord, I pray to you in this public meeting based on religious freedom. We, I hope, are grateful for these freedoms, but I know we could easily lose them. But I'm grateful that you offer a freedom that cannot be taken away, a freedom to know you and to be in a right relationship with you, a freedom purchased by you that has no equal. For that, I'm truly grateful. Lord, may this fair city know the freedom that you can give and how you've secured that for us. Thank you that we have the freedom to talk to you and that you are always and ever free to answer us according to your will. Lord, we pray these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 on the agenda is agenda changes. Do any of the commissioners have any agenda changes? Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. And a second for discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item number 5 is citizens' comments. We have one person who would like to address the council. It's Lyde McLemore.
Good evening. My name is Clyde McLemore, Mayor and City Council members. As a citizen of Zion, it seems that Mayor Hill want to discredit me every time I come before you. A few months ago, I told you, Mayor Hill, you want to be a bully. I recognize it and can identify it because I used to be a bully. Mr. Mayor, during my 3 minutes as a citizen of the city, whatever statement I make, I'm allowed to. As for you trying to discredit me, guess what? I can say what I want. As for me having facts, I may not be on point, but with your political games and stunts, I ain't always wrong. For one, I do know you was a council member before you became a mayor. And all them years, our supervisors have been breaking the law, spending taxpayers' money for a daughter phone bill. You voted for that stuff. That being your girl, y'all expected to be unnoticed. The benefit of today, white privilege goes on. Everyone knows it was unethical and unlawful. But you expected to go unnoticed. As for discrediting me, citizens not to pay attention to me, you met your match because nothing goes unnoticed on my radar. For example, how about the mayor of City of Zion that lives in Wadsworth with his ex-wife, with his wife? Well, since you've been elected as mayor, nothing has changed but the dates on the calendar. We still have a police department that's out of control, no Afro-Americans on the fire department, lack of Afro-Americans as department heads, the township office is still out of control, and a lack of Afro-Americans hired throughout the city. Yet we make up 40% of the population. Clearly, I'm not going to be silent with your bulliness.
Mr. McLemore, I would love to engage you in a battle of wits. The only problem is you would come unarmed.
Anytime.
So,
Anytime.
I have never discredited you. All I've done is point out every time you come in here and you make a false statement, and you do it time after time after time after time.
False statement. Did I make one today?
No, you didn't make one today.
Okay.
But you did say that I discredit you and that I shouldn't discredit you and I mistreat you. I don't do that.
Look.
If I don't say anything to you, except for tonight, very seldom do I respond to you at all, unless you say something that is untrue. And then I come back, usually the next meeting, and say something. So,
Well, you lied and told me you talked to Audrey Nixon. Before the lady died, she said she never even knew who the mayor of Zion was. You know what I'm saying? You do a lot of things, and I'm supposed to as a citizen. to
okay,
ask.
all right. I guess I'm wasting my breath. Item number 6 is a consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda?
Approval of minutes of a regular meeting held June 20th, 2017 at 7 p.m. And approval but not release of closed session minutes of a meeting held on June 20th, 2017 at 7:57 p.m. Bills, vouchers 126724 through 126800, drawn on First Merit Bank, total $583,202.80.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion?
Second.
And a second. Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item number 7 is consider passing resolution as follows. 7A is temporary road closure, Jubilee Days per Chief Dumian.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I respectfully request the City Council approve the attached resolution granting permission to temporarily close Sheridan Road from 23rd Street to 31st Street on Monday, September 4th, 2017, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. for the City of Zion's Jubilee Days Festival Labor Day Parade.
Move we approve the temporary road closure.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item number 8 is consider passing ordinance as follows. 8A is granting a special use permit for automotive sales for property at 2809 Damascus. Second reading per Director Ianson.
Thank you, Your Honor. At the first reading, the City Council voted to approve the special use permit with conditions that BC Automotive obtain their state auto license license, that all the automobiles be stored behind a fenced yard, and it doesn't exceed 12 vehicles a year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
And a second. Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item 8B is approving a redevelopment plan and project for Sheridan Road, Route 173, RPA per Director Nabel.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Items B, C, and D actually go together, but we have to do them in order here. This relates to the Sheridan Road 173 TIF that we had a public hearing on early in June. This item is actually adopting the plan as presented, and then we will adopt the boundaries of that and then apply TIF to those boundaries, but they have to be approved in that order. So this is just the adoption of the redevelopment plan that was presented at the public hearing.
If the commissioners remember, representatives from the school district were here requesting that there be a limit on the number of years that the TIF would be in existence and perhaps come up with some type of a split of the money that they would ordinarily get on the natural inflationary increase in value of the property. And Director Nabel and I met with representatives from the school districts. We did not come to any conclusion. We've scheduled another meeting for July. Do you remember the date?
Aye.
I think it's July 19th or something like that. And hopefully we will come back with something that makes both the school district and the city happy. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but hopefully we'll come back with something. But we did have that meeting. Is there a motion to approve the redevelopment plan?
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item 8C is designating the Sheridan Road Route 173 RPA pursuant to the Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Act per Director Nabel.
Again, this is just, now that we've approved the plan, applying that plan to that boundary area as identified in the ordinance.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion?
Second.
And a second? Is there discussion?
Just on all these, you still have Commissioner Frierson on here.
No.
That's all.
We'll change that. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item number 8D is adopting tax increment allocation financing for the Sheridan Road Route 173 RPA per Director Nabel.
And now that we have the area designated, this just takes the statutory provisions of the TIF Act and apply them to that area.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion?
Second.
A second? Is there discussion?
Just one question about when you had the meeting with the school, did they have any recommendations for us?
No, they didn't have any recommendations at the time. We talked about a couple things. They pointed out that there was one district in particular that had a split of revenue, and it was a flat-out grant from the city to the school districts. Which one was it?
That was actually a sales tax agreement. As
Yeah,
part of
what
the
city
TIF
was that?
I don't remember, it was further downstate, but
But it was interesting that, when we
Within
investigated.
the TIF, they.
No, what had happened is that there was a grant of money from the city to the school district, and just flat-out grant to them. But when we investigated it, the circumstances were a little bit different than what we're dealing with here. There was a timing on the TIF, where the TIF had to get done by a certain date, and the schools brought suit against the city, which would have prohibited them from doing the TIF within the time frame specified.
Yeah.
And so they had that stick over them, and at that point, then the city said, okay, we'll give you this amount of money if we can proceed with the TIF. So that's how they came to that agreement. So we'll have to have some discussions about that, and exactly how that worked out. So,
We can always come back at a later date and do
Yes.
an adjustment to
yes,
the TIF distribution down the road.
that's correct, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, and what we were talking about, from our perspective, is that there might be, it might be justifiable and acceptable to split what would ordinarily be the inflationary increment on the property that is there now. Not any new development, but if the property would go up 2% a year, that perhaps we would split that 2% a year with them, or something like that. But that's as close as we've come to any type of. And the idea was that, I think we both walked into it with the idea that we were there to find out what the other one wanted, and neither one of us knew what we wanted, so we talked about some things. And that's when we then agreed that, okay, each of us would go back and discuss it some more and come up with perhaps some other ideas, and then come back in July with hopefully an agreement or not. The time frame is a difficult thing for us, but it's just difficult because so many of those projects need to be extended out over a 12-year period rather than like a 5-year period if we went
Because we want to
50.
get the ball rolling on some development.
Yes.
So we need to give them a longer time.
No, the idea, the problem is that when you get to, if you limit it to 15 years,
Right.
if you have it 23 years and you have a project today, you can have a 23-year payoff or a 15-year payoff. But 10 years from now, if you have it at 15, you have to cram everything into a 5-year time frame, and you may not be able to do that with the money that the TIF itself is generating.
Right.
That's the issue. Yeah, is that what you meant?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item number 8E is authorizing the issuance of general obligation refunding bonds, alternate revenue source of the city, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $3.7 million to refund certain outstanding obligations of the city and for the payment of the expenses incident thereto per Director Nabel.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. A while back, this was brought before the council for some refinancing of some existing debt to avoid a large balloon payment in a couple of years. That was under a tax debt certificate. We did not get good terms, good response back from the market on that. So what we're doing is basically trying to go a different route with a alternate revenue source bond, where basically rather than just relying on our word of paying under a tax debt certificate, we're going to be pledging collateral, a revenue stream as collateral, which I believe we talked about as replacement taxes. That would be a little more comfortable for investors or for the market to bear, knowing that there's a collateralized stream there. So this is authorizing us to basically go out to market with the same written up terms that we had in the prior approved amount under the tax debt certificate.
Is this we took this bond out for the purchase of the ball field?
Correct.
What's the alternate revenue?
Replacement taxes? We're basically pledging replacement taxes as a collateralized stream, so if we didn't pay, they could do a tax intercept to make sure that they got their payment.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
You have a motion
Second?
and a second. Is there further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item number 9 is discussion, authorization, and approval. 9A is consider waiving bids and accept quote from Standard Equipment Company of Chicago, Illinois for a 2003 Vector truck hatch door replacement for the Public Works Department per Director Colangelo.
Thank you, Your Honor. In your packet, you'll find a quote from Standard Equipment Company of Chicago, Illinois for the replacement hatch door for the Public Works Department, 2003 sewer Vector truck. This machine is used to clean sanitary and storm sewers and for hydro excavating. The rear hatch door is in disrepair and is in need of replacing. The machine will not function properly without an airtight seal on the door and its mechanisms. The city has solicited quotes for major parts for this machine from other vendors in the past, only to find out the parts must still come from Standard Equipment. Staff is requesting and recommending waiving bids and approving the quote from Standard Equipment in the amount of $27,939.00. Funding for the replacement is from the general fund and water fund motor equipment line items and was factored into this year's fiscal year's budget.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I got it. You may have said this because I was trying to find this while you were talking. What's the reason for not going out and bid on this?
Because all the other companies that we can get it through still have to end up buying it from this company, the manufacturer. We found that out a few times.
Ron, I have one other question on that.
Yeah.
The timeline for this after we approve it, 12 to 14 weeks, is that because they have to fabricate, or is it?
Well, they have to put the mechanisms, there's internal working parts that are actually in the door itself. And then, well, first they gotta order it, and then they gotta put it together. And then, of course, then they have to prime and paint it and everything else like that.
Okay. So, but that's a reasonable timeline, or are they just giving themselves lots of leeway on it?
No, that's the norm.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion
Second?
and a second. Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item 9B is consider approval of letter of commitment for the city to participate in the development of a regional Lake Michigan watershed plan per Director Colangelo.
Thank you again, Your Honor. You'll find in your packet a letter of commitment for the city to participate in development of a regional Lake Michigan watershed plan. May 31st, 2017, a representative from the city and the Zion Park District attended a meeting with staff of the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission to discuss the proposed plan. A summary of the meeting is included in your packet. City staff, along with Park District staff, feel participation in the plan would benefit both parties, as it would make us eligible for grant opportunities in the future. The funding commitment of the city would be $2,097 and can be spread out over the next 2 fiscal years, beginning in fiscal year 2019. Staff therefore requests and recommends approval of the letter of commitment.
Commissioner McDowell, do you need a moment? Did you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. I'll move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item 9C, consider quote from Municipal Funding Solutions LLC for financing of capital purchases per Director Nabel.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you have a quote from Municipal Funding Solutions, this is for the financing of the equipment highlighted as detailed in the Capital Projects Fund budget attached. This budget was approved at the last meeting, and it's a 5-year term that the first payment would actually be in fiscal year 19. We have 2 lease payments in the current fiscal year that will be the final payments on those leases totaling $239,000, and then those will be replaced by the first installment under this lease agreement in fiscal year 19. And we did receive, I have in the memo here that we were pending final credit approval, but we did receive that approval this morning. So pending council approval, we can go forward with the financing and acquire all the equipment as approved.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
A motion
Second.
and a second. Is there discussion?
What is our interest obligation on this?
It's a 3.63%. That's not right in kind of the middle of the page on the proposal.
And is there a dollar amount to that as well?
I'd have to do the actual amortization schedules. This was kind of a not to exceed proposal. We're hoping that it actually comes in less than that, but you'd probably be looking, I would guess somewhere around $50,000 to $60,000 over the term of the lease, but I haven't run the calculations on that.
And this is for a period of 5 years?
Correct.
And where do we get the money to pay for this?
We have, you can see that there's, in the current budget, there's a public works lease there, a fire, and then the fire and police lease. Those first 2, that's on payment 5 of 5 and 3 of 3. Those 2 total the $230,000 basically. So the general fund transfers to the capital projects fund the amount for debt service on the leases. So those will be dropping off, those lease payments will be dropping off on next year's budget, and this first payment will be coming on.
All right, thanks.
If I read the numbers correctly, Director Nabel, is this the $238,443,000
That would be the payment, the annual payment under
For 5
the lease
years.
For 5 years.
So if I read this correctly, I mean, if I did my math correctly, that comes out to $1,192,000, and that the acquisition cost would be $1,072,000, so it'd be about $110,000 in interest over a 5-year period. Is that correct? Or
Correct.
about?
Yeah.
I didn't multiply out to 58 cents. But anyway. Okay, I keep forgetting, do we have a motion?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item 9D, consider approval of changes to memorandum of understanding between the City of Zion and the Professional Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 1999, per Director Nabel.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We just had recent negotiations with the IAFF Firefighters Union as required under the current agreement. We have a proposal in front of you for approval that was also approved by their board, or by their membership. All portions of the current contract would remain the same with the exception of the deductions for insurance reverting to the original 10% as detailed in section 16.2 of the original contract. And this change would be retroactive to May 1st, 2017.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion
Second.
and a second? Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item 9E is consider approval of City of Zion Emergency Operations Plan per Chief Lewis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Council. In front of you, you should have a copy of a revised emergency operations plan for the City of Zion. This plan replaces our current plan, which is several years out of date, hasn't been revised. The plan is written on the Illinois Emergency Management Act, which defines the need to maintain a current EOP. According to state statute, your municipality's ESDA or EMA department is responsible for the development and maintenance of the EOP. So I've had Jim Rissell from ESDA working with the Lake County Emergency Management Agency on a revision of our plan. He's been working on it for several years. It's quite time consuming, involves several department heads adding to what is called emergency support functions or annexes. Those are defined by FEMA. And basically, we take those emergency support functions or annexes and just drop them right into the plan and replace the names and add in the city functions as necessary. So what you have before you is the first draft of the plan that Jim wrote, then I revised it according to what I saw as a need. It went to the county for approval, and now it's going to you for final approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve this plan.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there a discussion?
I have some questions.
All right?
Thank you, Chief, and all those that worked on this plan. It's quite detailed. I just have one question, and, well, I might actually have more than one, but I just noticed that the ESDA director, in the case of a declared emergency, has quite a bit of responsibility.
That's defined by state statute
Okay.
and ordinance.
Is there Commissioner, I had the same question.
That's what
I've read it that there's a ESDA coordinator, which
Well, that would be
is
the
my
chief.
understanding that's
Yeah.
you. And that the director,
Correct.
but you step up first.
Correct.
Okay.
In reality, the plan is written, and I know it reads that way, the same way when I read it. That's by state statute. Your emergency management agency director is responsible for the plan and responsible for all disasters, the mitigation of disasters. However, in reality, we would open up the EOC and the department heads and the key figures, stakeholders would be in there working with ESDA, making the decisions as a combined group rather than the ESDA director sitting there saying, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this.
This is I mean, this is a lot of work,
No.
well thought out. But in the heat of the moment, in an emergency situation, if somebody reads this, they're gonna see the ESDA director as being responsible for a good portion of the emergency services.
And they are by state statute. That's the thing. State statute in Illinois says the ESDA director is responsible for disaster management.
In other municipalities, is the ESDA director part-time? or
It's typically
less
the
than
fire
part-time?
chief.
What's that?
It's either a full-time, like Antioch has a full-time EMA director. The Village of Gurnee, the fire chief and the deputy chief are the EMA or ESDA directors and co-directors.
Okay.
It's kind of terminology.
The thing that scares me is that this says that the mayor's in charge.
It's your
And the
city.
mayor doesn't know anything about
It's your city.
emergencies or.
Well, I think it also doesn't take into consideration the way our, a commission form of government. I think it takes into consideration a strong mayor form of government.
Right. But I'm, like, I can't be in charge of this. I mean, I'm in charge, I guess I'll be in charge of it, but you're all coming in with
Well, yeah, and when you look at the grand scheme of things,
Well,
you're
actually,
in
you can
charge
set,
of
you
us,
can set
of
up
course you're in
a
charge.
crisis management team, and you can choose whoever you want to be on that crisis management team.
I've got a couple questions though that I'm looking at on page 34, or 32, I'm sorry. It says situations in which the EOC may be placed on standby or activated include severe weather watch.
So let's say it's written in there off the emergency support function, but we know there's threats of tornadoes coming into town. They've hit neighboring towns. We could open up the EOC and start to put people in the EOC and prepare in case one hits Zion.
My only concern here is that if it's a severe weather watch, and we get a lot of watches, and we get a lot less warnings, and there, right below it, it says severe weather warnings, and if we could have, every time there's a weather watch, we set up the EOC, and then we finally say, this is silly, we're wasting everybody's time and money, and then we don't open up the EOC, and then a tornado does come through, how liable are we? Or if this is in the plan, it's my understanding that it's better not to have a policy at all than it is to have a policy and not
Well, don't
follow.
look at this as a policy. This is a template for how you operate. So by saying it could open, all we're saying is if there's a watch, any department head or you as the mayor could say, I want the EOC open. That's all the plan says.
Do we have a designated location for the EOC?
No.
Yeah, it's in there.
Well, it's in here, but we don't have a true EOC set up. What's happened was probably, we used to have one at the PD, probably, when did you turn it into a different room? 15 years ago? At least. At least 15 years ago, we had a designated EOC in the basement of the PD. Had the table set up, had little microphones, telephones, the whole bit. That went away, and then now, Chief Brooks and I, when we were working on it, we're going to use some of that donation money from Exelon. We're going to set up an EOC in the training room. Well, that never really panned through. So now the PD is the designated EOC. But if it's a smaller event, for instance, when we had the blizzard of 2011, we kind of used the fire department as the EOC. We met.
It was open at the time.
Yep, we hammered out what we needed to do. We went out and did our thing, and that was that. You know, so I left it vague for EOC so that it doesn't say the EOC is always here. It's based on the event, who's in charge of the event. That's how the EOP has its flexibility. So if we have a police event, Steve's in charge of the EOC, Steve's in charge of the incident, fire, public works event, so on. So you don't get too many finance events, but if that did. That would be David.
We have one 365 days out of every finance event.
You know, so you have to look at this as more of a template so that when we're in the EOC and someone says, okay, what's the responsibility of Public Works? We can turn to support function, whatever it is, 10, 9. They're okay, Public Works is responsible for this.
Right, I get that. I'm just concerned about this one statement saying that a severe weather watch, we can open the EOC. And if we don't, I'm afraid that somebody would grab this.
I can
and
certainly
say,
take
"See,
it out.
I think I would like that, but that's just me, and I think it says it may be placed on standby or active. There may be situations where the EOC is set up for use prior to formal activation. In such cases, the EOC is on standby for formal activation and may be utilized as an incident command post. Situations in which the EOC may be placed on standby or activated include severe weather watch. May. Right. So we're okay, you think we're okay? Okay. Page 34, there's a number of references to a public information officer. Have you decided who that should be?
So
It
you're
is the
supposed to
city
decide
clerk,
who that's
technically.
supposed to be.
Great.
But again, each department has their own public information officer. So we have one, I'm sure the PD has one. You know, I don't think you guys have a public information
But-
officer other than you, right?
But
You know,
this,
so
this,
again-
this is gonna need one, because as you go throughout this thing, it's somebody who's putting together news releases.
Well, no,
who's-
it doesn't have to be one. So, some of this is based off of NIMS 300 and 400, ICS 300 and 400. You know, and I'm not sure who's had ICS 300 and 400 up there. Some of you have had the 1, 2, 7, and 8. But everything that has to do with emergency operations plan, emergency management is based off the incident command system.
I have no idea what you're talking
I
about.
know. All these fine gentlemen up here, with the exception of Rich, have been through NIMS 3 and 400. It defines FEMA's incident command management system. So it defines PIOs, mutual aid, all these things. So we designate a PIO, but again, a PIO is designated on the incident. Depends on what's coming through. If it's a city function, somebody from public affairs is probably gonna be the PIO talking to PD. But the PIO is simply the person who's going to talk to the media. They're gonna gather their information from the people that sit on this side of the table.
And you could be that.
Yeah, but that's a
Person.
tough, it's my understanding, that's really a critical, it's very critical on what information goes out and how it goes out, because how it goes out opens up the city for, I don't want to say liability, that's not the right word, but it opens us up for, if the wrong information is put out by accident, we can have trouble. And because I remember it was years ago, when I was at my other job at the Park District, that there was training on what you say to the press, exactly when you say it, how you say it, and what you say, so that information doesn't go out. And I mean, that's a huge training.
You're correct, and you have the right to name anybody as a PIO. The plan just has to say, depending on the annex, what the PIO is. Again, the plan is just a template. Anybody can be a PIO, and the truth of the matter is, if we execute this plan, so I've been here 28 years, I've never seen a need to execute this plan, but we have to have one. If we executed this plan, you're gonna have teams coming in here. We could bring in an incident management team from the county who's got people that are trained just in being a PIO, or just trained in being the incident commander, and
Okay,
they're
I
pretty
guess
much gonna dictate
These
everything.
are situations where we're actually suspending normal operations.
Right, if a tornado came through.
Yeah. Well, even
tornado
if a
comes through
tornado
and
came
destroys
through, we
us.
wouldn't suspend the police and fire department's operations.
Oh, no, but we would suspend normal, or a lot of the normal city functions and concentrate on the area and the people that are in need.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like when an incident happens with the
The airplane.
Major Crimes Task Force. No, that they have a speaker or an information officer who knows what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. And to me, that would be important in something like this. And it doesn't have to be with the police, but it could be, who's hurt? How many people are hurt? Well, I don't know. And you can't give out names and a lot of things like that I wouldn't be aware of, in case you wanted me to be the information person. But anyway, I think a lot of this is going to require training, is it not?
If you wanted to be the point person, yes. Some of this you have to rely on your department heads who already have that training.
Okay.
That they're in that position to fill you in and tell you exactly what to say when and what not to say.
Right, I was
That
hoping,
was you.
I was hoping you would volunteer all department heads to do that. Thank you, John.
Well, we are doing the work.
Okay. Page 35. There's an IT component to this.
Yep.
Is this part of our contract with them? Are they aware of this?
No, I just assume, as anything else is, once we have an incident, they're still managing our computers. So, to provide support with the technology is what we already have.
Okay.
So they have to maintain the support on it.
Okay, and do you have any, again, on page 35, access and functional needs? Do we have any idea who is knowledgeable in that area?
This would come from North Point Achievement Center, Township Office. So your access and functional needs are your people that need assistance.
Right.
So in that event, that's when you gotta sit down, you gotta work with your the churches, Township, North Point Achievement Center, who needs more assistance than anybody else.
Right, but how do we, when this event takes place and we have to make a decision in 15 minutes that we have people with needs to...
You will not. I'm just being blunt. This is not at the 15-minute mark. This is at the 4 to 6 plus hour mark.
Okay.
In 15 minutes, everybody's out doing something right now. You haven't even put your EOC in place yet.
All right, but I guess I'm talking about a 4 to 6 hours later. Who would I call at North Point?
You're going to be sitting in an EOC with the rest of us. And then I'm probably going to call the director of the North Point Achievement Center.
Do we have those phone numbers and all that
We
stuff?
do.
Okay, all right,
PD may.
great. Okay.
This is also part of the EOC, and we haven't even touched that yet. That the EOC has to have books with phone numbers in place, the maps in place, so that anybody in there can pull this out and just say, okay.
Is that what
here's our contact
we're going to be working on with Terry
Cox?
Cox, yes.
The honest answer, I have no clue.
Okay.
Terry is looking at a much bigger resilience plan that involves all communities, use of our electronic signs in town, notifications.
Right. I think what, if I understand what he's talking about, and I think that falls in here, he's talking about getting Winthrop Harbor, Beach Park, Zion, and Wadsworth together on a plan. And his point was, it's not the day of, it's not a plan for a day of, because you guys know what you're supposed to do.
Correct.
There's a plan already put in place. It's putting together a plan and volunteers and identifying organizations for day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, when you've got trees down all over the place and people can't afford to get them off their private property. Apparently, there's a group in southern Illinois who will be up here in 24 hours to
We used them before.
cut trees down.
He's looking at the recovery phase.
Yes, and, you know, where are animals? Where do animals go that are out roaming around after a tornado or whatever? And where do people pick them up and all those things, and how do you communicate that? And I think that's what he's looking at. Hopefully, then, I'm assuming that at that point, I will be addressing who is responsible for doing some of these things that are in here that are not department heads. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's about right.
Can our communication system, does the police, fire, public works, and building can you all communicate with each other at the same time?
Typically, all of fire in the county can speak to each other. Police typically can only speak on their frequency, and public works typically only speak on their frequency.
So how does it work then, and maybe I missed it in here, if something big happens and we need to communicate with each other?
Telephone.
Okay.
Typically, again, if we bring this up.
You got 10
Yeah.
phones? Okay.
If we're bringing something big like this, you're breaking it down, police operations are happening, public works operations are happening. Sticking with the tornado theme, building department's out doing damage assessments.
Right.
David's sitting in the EOC figuring out how we're spending the money we have coming in and the resources we need. And then we're working together in there, and if it's a police thing, Steve's gonna communicate with the police, Ron's gonna communicate with his guys, and so on and so forth. So it stays within your agency, but the key stakeholders from each agency are in the EOC making the decision.
Okay, and I think that the Cubs group would be good at this at some point, on getting information out to the community and people.
That would be one way, yeah.
I mean, information going out plus information coming back in, that Cubs group per precinct could say, you know, we've got a problem here with an electrical line, or we've got this, or we've got that, and that
This
we have
list
not
of,
identified yet.
You know, a number of contacts that need to be made, and at a later revision, we could just add Cubs to it too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of staff hours that have to be put into a plan like this to get it exactly right. Staff hours, meetings, everybody's got to sit at the table, what do you want, and then you have to go out and practice what you write. So if it does happen, everybody knows. It's just, we currently do not have that time availability.
Okay, and all those things will happen though?
I can't say yes and I can't say no. Will we ever get the plan in place? Again, it's staff time. It's a lot of staff time to get in this and a lot of commitment for everybody involved to say we need to develop the EOC. We need to get in the EOC, set it up like it needs to be. Let's go through a mock event so everybody knows their role. I can't say if we'll ever do that or not. That's your decision, a city decision.
Is there a cost associated with those kind of mock prepared?
No, it's just time. It's just time. I mean, it's a cost thing to get everything prepared. You want a good functioning EOC, it's a cost. You go to your large communities, Chicago, your big municipalities, you know, they have EOC set up because that's what they are. Most of your small communities may have an EOC, but they don't have a fully functioning EOC with everything set up and ready to go.
Do one of our neighboring communities have it?
The Harbor has an EOC there on 7th Street.
Would that be usable if we come to an agreement with them that we're gonna do this together?
Oh, I'm sure it would.
Okay,
Beach Park has an EOC in the basement of their village hall.
okay,
I mean, it's around there.
okay. Are there any other questions or further discussion? Do we have a motion? Yes. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye. Item number 10 is departmental commentary. Do the department heads have anything they'd like to share?
Just for the record, I would like to inform the council that Attorney Randall and I have performed our semi-annual review of closed session minutes, and we have nothing for release at this time.
Okay. Anything else?
Just wanted to relay something. I did attend the Ramadan dinner at the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community Center, and they wanted me to relay their best wishes to the other members of the council and the mayor, and to Chief Dumian, and they look forward to possibly you joining them in the future. So,
Thank you. Item number 11 is announcements. Thursdays through September 28th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. in Zion Farmers Market location. There's a location change. It is now located on Zion Park District property. I believe it is going to be just across the street and on the boulevard east of the Shiloh Golf Course, between the football field and the golf course. July 18th at 6:30 p.m. is a town board meeting, appropriation ordinance public hearing, and July 18th at 7 p.m. is a Zion City Council meeting, appropriation ordinance public hearing. Item number 12 is a closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2, open meetings for discussion of personnel, collective bargaining. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
second.
A motion and a second. Is there discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner McKinney?
Aye.
Mayor Hill?
Aye.